Happy lunchtime, everybody. Thanks for signing on today for our Lunch and Learn session. Help, I'm in college and don't have a budget. My name is Alex, and on behalf of Copper State Credit Union, we are so happy to have you. As a reminder, you'll receive a $10 gift card for attending this webinar and furthering your financial education. Look for a separate email after the webinar containing your gift card. I have a few items to review before we get started. Our session today is scheduled to last about 30 minutes. The recording of today's event will be sent out to you via email and will also be located on our website. Please take a moment to find your Zoom toolbar, likely at the bottom of your screen. We want you to be able to participate as much as possible during our session today, so we want everyone to be aware of the features available. Q&A. Please type your questions for the speaker here at any time throughout the session. You can click the anonymous button if you don't want your name attached to the question. If we need to send you any links during the session, you'll find these in chat. Lastly, I want to point out the polling feature. You should see a poll popping up here momentarily. Please respond so we know a little bit more about our audience today. Thank you. Now, I'm excited to introduce our speaker, Christina Credit. Christina is Copper State Credit Union's Financial Wellness Program Manager. She's been with the credit union for 4 years and loves her current position. Christina has lived in the Phoenix area for 9 years since moving from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She loves listening to audiobooks and enjoys camping with friends and family, as well as working in her garden. Financial fun fact about Christina: most of her lunch money is spent at Salad and Go or for Thai food. Christina, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Very excited to be with you. For those of you who are new here, I want you to meet Copper State Credit Union. We are a local Arizona credit union, and we're built from the merger of 2 equally thriving credit unions, Deer Valley and Canyon State Credit Union. And that was back in 2019 that merger became official. In 2020, Southwest Healthcare Credit Union joined us, and we rebranded, found our new name, and we are now Copper State Credit Union. As you can see on the screen, some of the details about our membership has a ton of benefits, and it's open to most Arizona residents. You can see the counties there. If you live, work, or worship in any of those counties up on the screen, you are eligible to be a member if you are not already. We have 7 branch locations, plus a location at GCU in the Lopes shop. We serve over 40,000 members, and we offer a variety of accounts, different loans, and we have online banking and a mobile app. Pretty much anything you'd expect from any financial institution, we have it. So when we talk about our credit union and who we are, I like to quickly go over our core values, because if you don't understand our core values and who we are as a credit union, it doesn't really make sense why I'm here today and why, we want to buy you a free lunch to learn about budgeting. But when you look at our core values being family, empowerment, excitement, discovery, and you apply that to what we really believe, which is making financial wellness a priority, will lead to our members and our community achieving that financial prosperity. So that's why we want to make sure we're offering these financial education opportunities for everyone, because we care about empowerment and allowing you to find your financial success. So obviously, you are not here today because you already have a workable, easy to follow, fun college budget. The years after high school, particularly if you're going after higher education, they're a very interesting and challenging time when it comes to finances. You're in a way different financial situation than your parents or your grandparents or your siblings or whoever else. You're spending a ton of money, but you're not necessarily into your career yet. So it's hard to figure out a budget. You can't just use like a run-of-the-mill budget template. Google online, a lot of those aren't going to work for you. So to help, we've taken the time to figure out a way to make budgeting easy and specific for a college student situation. And if you are a parent or family member of a college student, as I saw in the poll, there a few of you are, this can apply for you as well, or maybe just give you some tips for helping your college student. So we're going to cover today the basics of budgeting, and spoiler alert, it is 4 easy steps. We are going to talk about what to watch out for that can hijack your budgeting attempts while you're in college. And the skills you learn today are totally transferable to life after college. So even if you're a senior graduating soon, it can still apply. One of the most exciting things about today's session is today you're going to walk away with a customizable download. It's a student budgeting template that is pre-populated with a lot of Arizona averages for like an in-state 4-year college student. And you can edit all of the categories and all of the amounts to fit your needs. While we're talking about that, I'm going to go ahead and pop up one more poll for you here because I'm curious. Here is a preview of the 4 budgeting steps we're going to talk about today. And I'm curious, which of these sounds the easiest? Go ahead and take a moment to respond. All right, thank you. Looks like we had a few people share. You thought that determining the income level was going to be the easiest. And in some cases, you're right, that is going to be the easiest step. But in others where you have a lot of different income sources, it's a little trickier. But really, it kind of depends on the person, what you think is going to be the easiest step. So the 4-step budget for college students. First, we have determine your why or set your goals. Then we're going to talk about income, as you saw in the poll. We're going to talk about expenses, and then giving every dollar a job. And my slide jumped ahead here. But at the end, I've got a little bonus content for you with some money saving tips that I want to share, specific for college. All right, so your goals. Step 1, why are you here today? Why did you sign on to learn about college budgeting, besides the free lunch, obviously? Why do you care about your finances? Usually it's related to a bigger goal that we want to achieve, a type of person we want to be, or a type of person we don't want to be. We have these goals in our minds, and goals are all fine and good. But really identifying them, saying them out loud, and knowing the steps that will get you there is really going to help. So finding your why, I think, is ending the sentence that starts with, I am the type of person who, or I want to be the type of person who. And there's a lot of different ways you can end that, right? I want to be someone who is completely out of debt. I want to be that person who lives debt-free. Or I'm the type of person who's able to buy a car when I graduate. I don't want to make the same money mistakes as this person or that person. It's kind of funny to think of it that way, but a lot of what we learn is from the people around us and seeing the way somebody does something and saying, oh yeah, that is what I want to do, or no, that's not. There's a lot of different goals here, you guys, and it's not limited by the examples that you see on the screen or the examples that I just shared. But it is important for you to stop here and ask yourself, why do I care about money? What are my goals for money? And what type of person do I want to be when it comes to my money? I can't overstate the importance of this. So take a moment right now and think about why. Go ahead and send over in the Q&A box what your why is. I will not share these, but it's just nice to write it down. And as we continue, you can keep thinking about it and send it over at some point in the session. But if you go in the Q&A box and just type it in, sometimes you'll find that the act of writing it down really makes it a more specific goal for you. All right, moving on. So step 2 is looking at your income. You've got your goal, you know why you're here, you know why you want to tackle this. Now it's time to look at income, or all of the money coming in. And before I talk about some of these income sources and how to handle them, I want you to know that for college students, I recommend working on a semester basis. So fall semester, spring semester, summer semester if you are going in the summer. But if you work on a semester basis, you know, a lot of the expenses like room and board or tuition are calculated by semester. So everything else you can kind of factor in, and if it's per month, you just multiply it, or by week, you just multiply it out to reach that semester amount. So that's what I'm going to recommend. For common income sources, there's a few different places this can come from. You may or may not have any of these, right? But these are things to consider. Don't want you to leave anything out. If you have any family financial support, parents, guardians, grandparents, aunt and uncles, anything like that, take a look at what that support is per semester. And you want to have that number ready to go. Essentially, we're going to go through each of these and add up the income you have, or the money you have available to spend on the things you need per semester, even though it's not necessarily coming from your career. So family financial support, add on to that. Do you have a job at school during the semester? I know when I was in college, I worked a part-time job most of the time I was in college, and I never worked the same amount of hours per week. It was always a little bit different. But what you can do is ask your supervisor, hey, you know, I'm starting out the semester, about how many hours do you think I'm going to work per week? And you know your rate, and you can kind of get an estimate. Stay on the low end of it, right? If you estimate that you're only going to make $100 a week and you end up making $150, great. You got a little bit of extra wiggle room. You don't want to overestimate what you have, because then you'll run out of money. If you did have a summer job, and let's say not all of that money got spent over the summer, take that amount that's left and split it up between the 2 semesters. And you can add that to your kind of income pot that we're going to be taking from and allocating. Next up, financial aid. So this is going to be many different kinds. You can have from federal grants and scholarships to your specific college. There's private ones, there's state ones. Hopefully you were able to get some of those. There are also the last big chunk that a lot of us have or had or will have to support at least some of our college expenses, is that student loans amount. So it's what you're going to use per semester for that student loan amount. And it's weird to think of that as income, but that money is there to help you pay for tuition, to help you pay for room and board, to get you through to whatever degree you're pursuing. So once you have all of these income sources and you think them through and you really come up with an estimate for the semester, the next step is to take a look at your expenses. When you do that, again, we are calculating per semester for basically every time money leaves your wallet or money leaves your account. Tuition is going to be probably the biggest one, understandably. The next two, I kind of note here that room and board is if you're living on campus, whereas, let's go back. Whereas rent and insurance and utilities and groceries are if you're off campus. These three kind of go together. If you're renting an apartment, you probably have to have renter's insurance, or if you don't have to, it's a good idea. Whatever your utilities you're responsible for, that's something to ask your landlord about, probably before you sign a lease, right? So you know what your expectations are. And then your rent, obviously. So all of those go in. Whereas when it's an on-campus housing situation, your room and board, typically, not all the time, but it's usually like one lump sum for the semester, and that includes your meal plan or whatever the case may be. Now, there's going to be other food expenses, like when you go out to eat and stuff. That's not part of this. We're talking about just specifically like food that you need to eat, your meals, on campus, or like the groceries you would get at the grocery store. So just make that distinction based on where you're living. You may even have, if you're living at home and attending college, you may even be able to take some of that out and factor that out, which is nice. Next category is books and supplies, as well as school gear. So this is, the basic stuff you have to have, whether you're using a laptop. I don't know if you still, do the notebook thing. I personally, when I went to college, I still wrote in notebooks, but that was a little while ago. So things are probably different now. You can factor in like the school gear, you may need some, that sweatshirt or like hat for whatever your alma mater is going to be. The next category, personal expenses, I split into two because there are some things that you have to pay for, like laundry, a cell phone. I don't think they even put landlines in the dorm rooms anymore. I'm not sure, but so you've got to pay for your cell phone. Probably, you're going to have some clothing expenses, hygiene expenses. These are things you don't necessarily think about before college, but you may be coming to terms with a lot of those must-have personal expenses now. So what you can do is you can look at your bank statements, look and see what you've spent in those categories to help you figure out this number. And like I said, I'll show you guys a screenshot in a minute, but the Excel budgeting template that we're going to share that you get your own copy of, that has some averages in there, and that's for Arizona, students, undergrad, in-state, living on campus. So you'll be able to look at those averages as well, and adjust from there. So the next section of personal expenses is going to be the more fun stuff. So the stuff that is nice to have, like food, drinks, outings, going to the movies, if that ever becomes a thing anymore. You guys are probably like, I haven't gone out in forever because of COVID. But those are those kind of fun things. Check how much you're spending there. And then transportation can actually be a pretty big cost in college as well. This is everything from parking passes and fuel if you drive, to bus passes and airfare, anything related to getting from point A to point B. And lastly, this is kind of a shocking one for some people, savings goals. This is an expense, especially if one of your goals, like we talked about at the beginning, find your why, especially if one of those is to buy a car when you graduate or to be completely debt-free. You've got to start saving. and you have to get in the habit of saving so that you can continue being that person that you want to be with money after you graduate. So that is considered an expense. Last step, giving every dollar a job. Here is where you need to take all of your income and it's going to go out into several different areas, right? So the first part was just kind of looking at what's already there, looking at the income you have, looking at the expenses as they are now. This time, you are actually going to put that income toward a different item. The first one is bills. And under this category, I'm going to say that's tuition, housing, food, transportation, cell phone, the things that you absolutely have to pay for. Those are bills, right? The second category is going to be your savings goals, or I like to think of it as future me, right? I'm helping out future Christina by saving up right now. And then the last category is spending. That's going to be everything that's kind of variable, right? So maybe some of your school supplies and gear falls in there, your fun money, outings, getting the coffee at the campus coffee shop or whatever the case may be. That is your last category. So the way this budget template works, and it's kind of small in the screenshot here, but the way it works is it gives you some at a glance numbers at the top. But at the bottom, it allows you to show the semester, and the first column is income. The second column is bills and spending, and the third column is savings goals. So what I like about this is you can put your bills and your spending in the middle and actually name them. On the right-hand side, you can name your savings goals. So for example, if you want to go on spring break, you want to save up for that, you can put that as a savings goal and figure out how much you're able to put towards that savings goal. Like I said, with this, you are able to switch out the amounts on this spreadsheet. You can rename the categories, and the most common thing people say when they do a template like this is, how do I stick to my spending budget? So you've got your bills, usually they're like auto paid from your account or something like that. You can set up your savings to be automatic, but what about the spending? Well, what you can do is if you figure out per semester, I can spend this much money on fun stuff, and then you divide that by how many weeks are in the semester. I want to say it's 15, but I'm not sure. 15, 16. Divide that total amount per semester by the number of weeks in the semester, and that is your weekly spending amount. Go to the ATM once a week and pull out that cash. Have that cash in your wallet, and anytime you want to spend money, that cash is in your wallet. When you run out, you have to wait until the next week. That's a good method. It works for a lot of people. But keeping the bills and the savings part automatic through your institution, guys, you can do it on an app. You can do it in online banking. It's super easy. That's going to help so that the money for savings isn't just sitting in your checking account asking to be spent. So here are the money saving tips that we promised. And I've just got a little image here for each one. So number one, books. How often are you using them? Some degrees, some majors, you're in that book every single day and you do need to buy it. But if you don't need them every day, there's a library copy. So consider that if it's something where you don't think you're going to be using the book a whole lot. That might be something during syllabus week to figure out if you have to buy the book or not. Or you can buy it used, buy the book used, or buy it online. Know that the school bookstores, even though they're the most convenient, they're typically the most expensive. So that's my money saving tip for number one. Number two, be aware of late fees. So coming out of high school or starting college, mid-20s, whenever it is, sometimes you're not aware that pretty much everything has a late fee. Credit card payments, rent, cell phone, library books, like everything has late fees. So if you're not in the habit of knowing your due dates, get them put into your phone. Have a recurring reminder like, oh, my credit card bill is due on the 13th of every month, and just have it recurring to remind you like a couple days before, because those can add up. Another one with like random costs that you wouldn't expect, but in college, printing costs a ton. I don't know if it does wherever you guys are all at, but it can be like 10 cents a sheet to print something. So if you have a couple of roommates and you can go in on a printer, they're not that expensive. And over the course of probably a semester or a year, you'll be glad that you did and got a printer instead of paying that rate on campus. Next one, ask for student discounts. And that kind of goes along with number 5. Number 4 is ask for student discounts everywhere you go. A lot of places have them, you just forget to ask. And number 5 is look for free food. Actually, look for free anything. There's a lot of times that college campuses have free food. I don't know if right now because of COVID, and I'm sorry about that, that's a bummer, but typically, maybe in the future soon, hopefully, the free food will be back. So take advantage of it. And then an important one, just as a credit union representative, I can't help but talk about this one. Manage your credit card responsibly. Only buy what you can pay off in the same month, if at all possible. A credit card is not where you want to keep revolving debt if you don't have to. You want to be able to pay it off so that you aren't paying interest, that high annual percentage rate on your card. And then number 7 is just instead of going out for food or drinks or whatever the case may be, try having evenings in. And maybe you've done that a lot more over the past year, again, because of COVID. But that's just a fun way to save money. If you're having a few people, you can all pitch in and it's not very expensive at all. So there we have it. That is our presentation for today, kind of a quick overview during your lunchtime on budgeting if you are in college. I'm going to take a look at the Q&A and see if anybody sent over some questions. So I see several of you typed in your why, which is awesome. I'm so glad you sent those over. And I'm reading them now. I think those are awesome goals, having those whys in there. So thank you for sharing those with us. And any questions you have, feel free to send those over. I believe that Alex is going to send over in chat. There's on the Zoom exit page as you leave, there's going to be a survey and the budgeting template that I referred to a few times. Alex also sent this link to you in the chat. So if you don't want to worry about the email coming later or finding the Zoom exit page, she went ahead and sent that over. It just says download and survey and put the link there for you. Another link she included that I didn't have time to go over is we have a student loan calculator on our website. Super helpful. It allows you to put in different numbers and calculate your student loan situation. Check that out if you have time. She sent that over in the chat as well. Let's see if we have any more questions. I don't see any questions left for today. So if that is all you guys have for me in terms of questions, I will let you go. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you take the survey, make sure you get your free download, and take a look in your email inbox for that gift card. Enjoy lunch on Copper State Credit Union. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time.